You're recording.
All right, good to go. Thank you, Sue.
Mhm.
So I'd like to call the meeting of the Narragansett Regional School District Regional Agreement Amendment Committee of April 29th, 2021 to order. It is 5:04 p.m. The first thing that we will be doing is we have approval of the March 23rd, 21 meeting minutes. They were sent out ahead of time, so I'm hoping everybody had a chance to review them. And when you're ready, I would take a motion to approve as written.
So moved.
Thank you, Gerhard. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Was that Amy?
Linda.
Linda, I'm sorry. Thank you, Linda.
No problem.
So I'm not watching the screen, so with that, we will take a roll call. And again, I am just going to, as usual, I'm going to go right down the list. So actually, I might be off because I can't see everybody that's here. Somebody just shout out to me if they're not here. Ms. Taylor?
She's not here.
Not here. Thank you, Sue. Miss Bowmill?
I'm here and yes.
Thank you. Mr. Toth, I did see. I didn't hear you, Tim. Did you?
We can't hear you. Can you just give us a thumbs up, Tim? So it's on video.
Is this any better?
That's
Yes.
better. Yes. Yep. And Jeff's an alternate. Miss Guthrie. Right? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. And I don't know, Mr. Terrazini.
But I can't.
I know we said he couldn't mute. I mean, he couldn't unmute. I'm just going to move on. Miss Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you, Christine. Jay, did I see Mr. Puzzle? No.
No.
No, okay. Mr. Fandire?
Fan dryer. No, I'm gonna have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay, all right, thank you, Gerhard. Miss Ellis?
Ellis, aye.
Okay, I didn't see Kevin, did I?
No,
Kevin's
you
not
won't.
here.
On
Okay,
vacation.
and Mr. Marks says yes, and Mr. Mason?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. So with that, we will move on, and we do have some, well, we have some discussion and we have some votes, and I am going to hand it over to Jay. Jay, I believe you're gonna move on from it. You're gonna take it from here?
Actually,
That'd be
Jay,
Mac.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Jay is late today. I'm sorry. Yep.
He's just trying to get out of his car and get in to get started, so I'll start. So if Susan, you could give me access to the screen, please?
You should have it. You're all set.
Okay. Something does not look right. It is not showing me what's on my screen. It's telling me, oh wait, maybe if I check on the desktop. Allow Zoom to share your screen, open system. I'm not getting this. It's not allowing me to do this yet, Susan.
Okay. It says that you have. Let me just see. Just bear with me for 1 second. Oh, Amy's sharing.
Sorry.
That's okay. Where are you, Mac?
So when I ask to share the screen, it gives me a something that says desktop, whiteboard, iPhone, Finder. Google Chrome and doesn't give me the actual documents that are on my screen.
Okay, let me, just bear with me for 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can do it on mine.
I think what you then select, Mac, is desktop. If you're seeing them on your desktop view, that's what you select.
All right, so I select desktop and I ask to share. And then it gives me another window. It says allow Zoom to share your screen, open preferences, security and privacy grant access. So I'm going to open system preferences. And are we on a Zoom? Is it Zoom?
Yeah.
Let's see if that.
It's a Zoom webinar.
So now I have this security and privacy window. It has Google Chrome on it and Zoom.
What document are you trying to open up, Mac?
Well, I was going to, one of the 3 documents that I sent you yesterday, just an overview of what we're going to do tonight.
Okay,
Can you
the
share?
one that's labeled number 1?
Let's see. I think that's the case.
Okay, just bear with me for a second. Let me open it up. Okay. Let me see.
Guess, Susan, we're going to have to practice this before next time.
Yeah,
Are you talking about the agenda, Jay? I mean,
No.
Mac, sorry.
No,
Gosh,
It's
No, okay. Mac, Jay, sorry.
here we go. Let's see.
it's no, it's the
Nope. Is that it?
no, I'm sorry. If you go back, I'll tell you the name of it.
This one, the meeting information?
Yes, I think that's it. Yes. Okay, it's a little anticlimactic with all this time here. So we have 2 basic things when when Jay is able to get on. We have the 2 issues that we've been discussing over the last several months about whether or not there's going to be any qualifications for majority votes on the school committee. And the second thing there is the amount of money that will be involved in any capital expenses. And if you could scroll down, please, Susan. And then we're going to start with the budget and the assessment and the debt. And that's really important. I'm going to go through that, hopefully not too slowly for everybody, but give you a chance to ask questions. And so that's where we'll go. So I think since Jay is not here, if you would, let's see, trying to think how we're going to do this. I have my notes on my regional agreement. I wonder if that's Jay here. No, sorry. I'm trying to think how we're going to do this because
I wonder if I make you host, if it will allow you to share.
Yes, can
Want
we
to try that? Okay,
That would be great.
let's see. Fingers crossed. Make host.
Can you stop sharing your screen here so I can?
Yeah.
All right. Actually, what I'm going to do while we're trying this, I'm going to print out my notes so I can speak from my notes if you share your screen, and it doesn't have my notes on it.
Okay.
So have you done that, Susan?
Yes, you're the host now. You should be able to share your screen.
Well, it's still giving me the same thing. It's making me go to my security and privacy.
So if Sue actually presents the document and you can read your notes, would that be better?
Right, that's what we're gonna have to do. I'm just printing them out right now, so.
So Sue, you'd have to get back the, and just share that document, and Mac would,
Can you take it back or do I need to give
You're
it?
gonna have to give it to me. So go to where my name is and hit the more, down arrow for more. And it should say make host.
Go to your name.
Where it says district office, if you click on that, it'll,
Whoops. Recording. Well, this is not going so well. When I clicked on that.
to the left of, to the right of my name should be two small blue boxes. If you click on one of them, it's a little drop-down menu and it will say make host or yeah, it'll say make host.
I don't see your name. I just see district office.
That's me. I'm sorry. Yes, that's,
Oh, now I get something. Okay. Stop. Make host.
okay.
All right.
Now I can share my screen. So what would you like me to share?
The regional agreement.
Okay. Just bear with me for a second.
Okay.
Okay.
My poor printer is working overtime here. All right, so if we scroll down to section 5 on the budget, we'll go back to Jay's part when he gets on here, or when we finish this. Okay, so again, as I mentioned last time, we did not make any changes in what you're doing, what you have been doing. We're just clarifying some of the laws. Some of your current regional agreement just says refer to a certain section of the law, and we've spelled that out. And the DESE wants us to spell out the formula for doing the assessments. We have done that. So I'm going to go through that with you. So the first section on the budget, it's just separating the budget into 3 categories: operating budget, transportation, and the capital debt. So all budgets are, sometimes some people separate capital and debt and make 4 categories, but those are the categories that are required by law. So we can scroll down. So let's see here. Oops, I'm going the wrong way here. All right, as the top of the page, go back to the top of the page, please. Yeah, okay, thank you. So generally the school committee would come up with a tentative budget and then eventually a final budget. The final budget has to be produced within 45 days prior to the first town meeting, and in any event no later than March 31st. So I don't think that's any change, is it, Chris? The 45 days is definitely what the law says, and
right.
so
Anne Marie, is that what's our is that the correct date, or do we have the earlier date?
I think that the town of Templeton had asked if we could do it by March 15th, and that's what we've tried to shoot for the past 2 years.
So I guess the question is, do you want that in kind of in law here, or are we going to leave it this way and you will try to meet their request?
Well, I think that what we did do is we did agree to the 15th when we, again, when I say agree, when we had just conversations about it. So I know that the school committee wanted, felt comfortable with that. I would defer to Hank as well, just to make sure that I'm not missing something. But we also know that the statute is, you know, that there's a certain by no later than March 31st period, I believe, right?
Right, right.
Also, Linda Ellis has her hand up. Linda, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Linda, do you have, if you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm just waiting for you to call on me. I think the 31st, since it's a statute, should be in there. I mean, it's nice that you can get it done earlier, but I don't feel, I mean, it's grueling to get it done that, you know, and if the law says the 31st, I think the 31st should stay.
Right, because you
They
can always do it
certainly do
earlier.
it earlier if they want to, even if it says the 31st.
Exactly.
All right.
So what, is there any more discussion about that?
Hi, Tim here. The date change was because our town budget discussions were on the 13th. The school was the evening of the 15th, hence that 15th date to get it in. And that's when the school committee, the advisory committee, and the select board all met on an evening meeting.
Well, what's the pleasure of the group?
I would have to say, I think we stick with the 31st. I mean, again, I agree that we can always get it in earlier if we deem, if we could. We can certainly work with the towns to get it in earlier, but I would stick with the 31st.
All right.
Well,
Well,
I would have to question when you start your budgeting process. Why can't you shoot for February 15th for a draft,
Well,
March 15th for your final?
I don't think that's the question, Tim. I think the question is, we could always shoot for that, but if we change the date, now we're stuck to that. You know what I mean? If we stick with the 31st, we could always move it earlier. You know, that's the way we've been doing it in the past. I don't see that being an issue. It's worked out. So again, we've always worked with the towns to get it in when we need to. So I think that it's been working. I think we can keep it that way.
Well, those are the 7 most deadliest words in government, is we've always done it that way. But if we stick it at March 31st, there's no room to make any adjustments or amendments. That's why we try to get it done early.
And if we agree to get it in earlier and we don't get all the information, you know, we don't always get all the information from the state. And I know we've been pressured to get it in earlier without the information. I would prefer to have all the information in front of us and make a informed decision, you know, take the time to do it right. So again, Tim, I think that we can certainly work, you know, we have in the past worked to get it in earlier. I just think it would be unfair for us to be pressured to get it in ahead of time.
okay. Well,
I
Is
hear
it
what you're saying.
possible to?
I hear what you're saying. I just have a frustration because
No,
if memory is serving me correctly, the presentation on the 15th had not yet been certified by the school committee. And if that's a factual statement, then that was a problem in and of itself because that budget was not firm.
Linda Ellis has her hand up, Jeff.
Linda, go ahead.
I feel your pain, Tim, but I also know that, like with this COVID, it was so unexpected, and we may have other things in our lifetime that come up. And if the law changes, you know, and budgets are done with the state at different times, maybe we can do an amendment or something. But at this time, the law is stating they have to the 31st. And I think the towns are always trying to work and get things done quickly and together. And the school committee is really good. The superintendent is, you know, more than willing to get out there and try to get that budget done. But things happen, as we unfortunately have seen with COVID, and who knows what's going to come up next in our life.
Another way you could handle this, if you keep it on the 31st, the school committee could have a policy that says it has to be done by the 15th. And that would carry the same weight, but it would at least have some ability to be adjusted if something happens in the future, and not change the regional agreement. So the school committee can certainly vote to do that. All right, well, I think we should move on. Also in that paragraph, it just states that the school committee, in order to approve a final budget, has to have a 2/3 vote. But when it goes to the towns, it only requires a majority vote to pass. Now, looking at, if we can scroll down to C, please. This about amendments to the approved budgets. This is not in your current agreement, but this is law, almost word for word out of the law, but just so that everybody who reads this in the future will know that this is a possibility. And this is when the towns have voted to approve the budget, and at some point later, the school committee wants to change that budget. So here are some rules about how that happens. So it's generally only an issue if it raises the budget or it raises the assessments to either of the towns. So the school committee has to vote, obviously, to change the budget after it's been approved, and they have to, within 7 days from their vote, let the Board of Selectmen know about that. And then the select board has 45 days in which to do something. They can let the 45 days go by, and then it becomes a new, they approve. That means that town has approved the new budget, or within that 45 days, they can call a town meeting at which voters can vote that up or down. And if the voters vote that down, then that change budget cannot happen. So that's what this, and number 2, again, talks about the 45 days. And if the amount is greater or equal to the assessment, again, there has to be a positive reaction either by the select board or by the voters. Number 3 just says that if the new budget does not change a member town's budget up or does not change their assessment up, that town does not have to vote again, or assume that because it's less money, that town automatically approves it. Number 4 just talks about if the commissioner gets involved and sets a new budget, it just means the school committee has to re-propose a new budget to the town for a vote. And number 5, just again, reaffirms, excuse me, this is Jay Barry. He must be having a problem there. Hi, Jay. Okay, all right, we'll do that. Hey, Susan, can you forward that invitation to Jay again, please? We can't hear you here. Is that possible, Susan? Great, thank you.
I just have to turn off my screen share for a minute.
Well, definitely before the next meeting, I'll work with Susan so I can figure out how to do this myself. I'm sorry that it's a little less efficient than I'd hoped, but.
No worries.
Learning all the time.
That's right.
So Mac, with what you just read in sections 1 and 2 for the 45 days, if we don't back up that date to get the budget in, we're not there. The town of Templeton has annual town meeting May 12th. There's 30 days in April. That's 42 days. If it's submitted by March 31st, we're not making the 45 days by law.
No, this is, Tim, this is when it could be July or August that the school committee has a reason to change the budget. And it could be, for example, that additional money comes in, say state transportation money comes in at a higher rate, and the committee wants to use that, be able to use that money, that might be a reason for it. Or it may be a boiler blows up on July 15th and they need additional money. So this is long after the budget has been and the new fiscal year has started. Then the school committee votes to change the budget. They send it to the town, and it's at that point that the town has 45 days to decide either to not do anything, and after 45 days it becomes okay, or have another town meeting before the 45 days is up in order to see if the taxpayers are willing to accept that. So that could happen anytime after July 1st. Okay, can you go get back to our screen, your screen there, Susan, please?
Yep, one sec here.
So again,
Just give me a
this whole
sec.
section is just about if the school committee has some need to change the budget after it's been approved by both the towns at some point later. And it's really only an issue if either the budget goes up or the assessments go up. Then that's what put this plan into action, that the towns have 45 days to either accept it or have the voters look at it and decide that they want to disprove it, and then it doesn't happen. So does everybody basically understand this concept?
Linda Ellis has her hand up.
Yes, Linda.
Okay, so say the town doesn't agree, but the way that our agreement is if Templeton decides, yes, we want to do this, and say it's an increase, and Phillipston says, no, we don't want to do this. Usually we go to a joint meeting and the majority, which is always Templeton, would win. So what would protect each town to individually decide upon this? And what do we do now when this happens? Like, according to our agreement, what do we do now? What's the difference? Thanks.
Well, this is the law, so I don't think you're doing anything differently. So I don't know if Anne Marie can speak to that. Has that happened, or Chris, in the last number of years that you've wanted to change the budget after it's been approved by both towns?
Well, yes and no. I think that what I mean by that is that a couple of years ago, we went and had 3 joint town meetings. So I guess in one respect, the answer to that is yes, right? I don't, and I would defer to Anne Marie, but I do not believe that after everything was said and done, maybe with the exception of if monies have come available, that we had to recertify the number. But that does, since I've been here, I don't believe it's just happened that the school committee wanted to change the budget and then, after it's been approved and voted and all that.
I think what this is referring to is if at the town meetings, the budget was approved by both towns and then the school committee wanted to make a change, this is the process to follow to do that. The scenarios that Linda was talking about is when one town did not agree and it put us into a 1/12 budget that was sent by the state.
Right, you're right, Anne Marie, that sounds right. Right, it's two different situations. Yeah, this is after both towns have approved the budget, that the school committee then wants to change it for some reason. So anyway, this is just the rules, and again, it's really not a debatable thing because that's what the law says you have to do.
Like Linda
Okay.
has another question.
Yep.
Linda, do you have a question?
It's not in our agreement at the moment, right?
That's correct. We just thought that should be in there because it's an important part of the budget process, and we want to make sure everybody knows up front what has to happen if the school committee wants to change the budget. So it's clear to everybody. These are the rules.
How many districts do not have this in their agreement?
All of the ones that we have worked with almost, I think, 21 school districts revising these. All of them now have this in it. The ones that don't have it in it are ones that were written many, many years ago. They still have to go by this law, even if it's not in their regional agreement, because it's a law. So
This should happen just because it wasn't in the regional agreement. We would still have to follow this because it's the MGL.
that's correct.
Go ahead, Katrina.
Unmute.
My question would be, if it's the law and it's the law, why even put it in the regional agreement now? If we have to follow it no matter what, is it just a waste of space in the regional agreement that's already long?
I thought that he said that it was because we're just referencing the law so that everybody understands the process as we're going through the budget process.
At some point, this is going to come up, I would think, and then people don't have to go and look it up in the law. Here it is in your agreement. And this is how we do it.
Sorry.
My question would be, like, what happens 5 years from now if the law changes, though? If we're just gonna abide by the law, then I would think that we wouldn't want to include this in the agreement, because then we should be looking up the law at the time that the issue occurs.
You know, there's a good question. If Susan, could you just scroll up just a little bit to the top of this section? Okay, what we need to put after B, public budget hearing and budget approval. Wait a minute, that's go down to C, I'm sorry. There, right there, amendment to approve budgets. We'll add as may be amended, which I generally try to do that after every time we cite a law or a regulation from the DESC. So I will put that as amended, and then if it does get amended, it'll somebody will know that they have to look someplace else to see it may have changed. So we will add that. That's true with any of these things in here. If the law changes, then you still are going to have to go by what the new law says, whether it's in this or not. But, all right, anything more in this section? This is kind of controversial. People don't like to think about this happening, but.
Looks like Linda has a question.
I have lots of questions, sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
All right, Matt, are you a lawyer? I just want to know, like, is your background law?
No, I was a superintendent of schools though. But.
Okay, that's good. I agree with Katrina. Like, why do we need to put it in there? This is pretty long as it is, and it's a lot of legalese in there that I'm sure will have to be reviewed. And the laws are changing really fast lately, and I suspect it probably will change, just like Katrina said. So maybe cite it, like you mentioned, as amended per law. And if you said you have to follow the law anyways, why write extra words?
Obviously.
Christine Bennett also has a question.
Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, I was clicking the wrong unmute.
No, that's-
From my perspective as a lawyer, knowing how many people do tend to refer to this agreement, I think it's better to have it spelled out where it's in one central accessible place on the district website for everybody to look at. And because not everybody's going to have access to go look up the CMRs on their own easily. I don't see the harm in having it there spelled out, and then we know what the expectation is, unless and until it's amended again by the state.
I would agree, just from the perspective that the 1/12, which happens or has happened a couple times in this district, it would have, it was hard information to find. And so I think that we would certainly know, because they would tell us if there was an update to the amendment, we would then, of course, update it. But it's good to have in here for an easy reference. To change the amendment approved budget would be that would be something that folks would know, because that's a pretty big piece about how budgets function. So I don't think it would slip by anyone. I can't see it slipping by someone. It's a pretty big deal, especially to municipalities and of course to school districts.
All right, anything else here? Okay, Susan, can we go down to D? This has not changed. These are the dates by which each town has to give the district its share of the assessment. So those dates, unless someone wants to think about changing them, but there's no change there.
I'm pretty sure that the towns pay every month, not just 10.
Is that from you, Anne Marie?
Yes.
Well, so we can change that, or so July, August. So this says there's no payment in September, but obviously if they do that, when they get to November, they're going to be at the 30%. So do they do that in 10 installments or 12?
They've been doing it the last, as far as I've been involved, it's been 12 months.
12. All right, so we can change that.
I think this would be important. I would think that the town treasurers or the town managers certainly would want to be part of this conversation, only from the perspective is just as you pointed out, there's no payments between September and October. There is no September-October payment. I don't think I missed it, but when you start talking about cash flow, that could be a pretty big hit. I'm talking for towns, and so it is my understanding, although this has been going on for a very long time, that it was easier in terms of cash flow to pay monthly, and that was my understanding. But again, I think that probably what scares folks away is that you're talking about September, October, and all of a sudden you're at 30%. And again, cash flow being what it is at any point in time.
So Chris, could we ask either you or Anne Marie to check with the town treasurers and report back to us next time?
Sure.
If that's an issue, and if it's okay to go to 12 payments, we'll do that. If there's some reason that's like this, we can keep it this way.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Boy, I thought that was going to be the easy one. All right, Susan, if you could down into apportionment assessments. Okay. Again, the budget is separated into operating costs, transportation costs, and capital costs. And then B spells out what operating costs are, and it's basically everything except transportation and capital debt costs. At the bottom, it says a day-to-day operation. So it's basically most everything that takes place during the regular school year. Number C, transportation costs say it's based on the students who are transported by the district to and from school. That to and from school has been recommended by lawyers in other communities to make it clear that that's what you're talking about, just the transportation costs of students going to and from school. And D is the, let's see, why does that look different? Let me see, C. Transportation. Wait. Huh, that's, somehow that looks a little different than I have there. Anyway, capital costs, again, we didn't change any of the, I'm sorry, Susan, could you scroll back up a little bit, please? That's C. I have actually changed the order of that based on looking at other documents. They always, the state likes to see operating costs first, transportation second, and capital debt third. So on my copy, it's already updated. So anyway, capital costs, I think everybody is pretty clear about what capital costs are. And in your case, the rules are different, which we'll get to in a minute, for town-owned buildings versus district-owned buildings. Okay, Susan. Now, down to apportionment of operating costs. Okay, your agreement does not spell out the formula in this, and DESE wants this spelled out now in all agreements that are being updated. So first, let me just get my notes here. So operating costs include what each town has to pay for their minimum local contribution and what is above the minimum local contribution. That's the operating cost that each town is required to pay.
Jay, can I just hang on 1 second? Lynn, did you have another question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's
Matt-
okay.
Mac, who at DESE wants it done like this? Who are you referencing from DESE?
We communicate with Chris Lynch, who has been there for 40 years and is semi-retired, and Michelle Griffin. We talk with them frequently, and as we're going through these, I send them copies of what we're doing, and they come back with suggestions and comments, and we try to follow up on that so that it saves a lot of time when we get something in writing. So
How about Jay? Do you talk to Jay also there or no?
normally I don't. One of our members does occasionally, but he does not really have responsibility for these regional agreements. It's really the people who do that are Chris Lynch and Michelle Griffin.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Mac, I had a similar question on this because this agreement is between the two towns and the regional district. Now we have DESE sticking their fingers into the mix, and I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding where we're going.
The reason they are sticking their fingers in, Tim, is because they have to sign off on this at the end. Chris Lynch and Michelle Griffin will read this with a fine-tooth comb, and they will make a recommendation to the DESE lawyers, who then have to make a recommendation. And if they approve it, then it goes to the commissioner. But it will not get to the commissioner unless Chris Lynch and Michelle sign off on it. So, and they know this, all these rules very well. So again, they're trying to be helpful to make sure. We have been involved in 2 of these situations where this formula was not in their regional agreement. And unfortunately, the district was not doing their assessments correctly. And in both cases, for 7 or 8 years, one town was paying significant more money than they were supposed to. And when we got involved and looked at how they were doing it, we realized that they were not following this formula. And it was it's been a significant problem in both of those places. So that's why it's, again, why we try to spell out things very clearly. So 10 years, 20 years from now, Anne Marie is not there. The next person is going to know exactly what they have to do the assessments.
Looks like Linda Ellis has a question.
Sure.
What 2 districts had these issues?
I guess it's public information. Dayton Rehoboth is one.
Yep.
And Dayton was paying significantly more than its share for 7 years. And when it was found out and they made the formula correct, it was very difficult for Rehoboth to come up with the extra money, that even though they should have been paying that for these 7 years, it still was difficult. The other is, Jay, maybe you can help me. Whitman Hanson. And what they did to solve the problem was they allowed the town that had been paying too much, agreed to a 2-year phase-in, that they paid half of the amount of amount for a year, and then it went to the second year and went to the other town had to pick it up fully. So it became a problem. Anyway.
Thank you. I think Templeton and Phillipston had that problem at one time. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Okay. All right. So then there's the formula there. So your operating budget, again, excludes transportation and capital debt. And so from the total operating budget, you have to subtract the Chapter 70 money that comes to your towns. You have to subtract the total amount of minimum required local contribution from both of your towns. You have to subtract any other general revenue that might come, like grants or something that's actual money that comes to the community. And that equals the total above minimum contribution that then gets distributed between your two towns. So you start with the total amount that is going to be approved, that hopefully is approved by the communities. You subtract the Chapter 70 money that's coming in, what each town has to pay for minimum local contribution, any other general revenue, and that's the total amount that gets distributed among the two towns for their assessment. How are we doing with that? At least my explanation of it. We all okay with that? So then Anne Marie would take that total amount of money that's above minimum local contribution, and in your case, it gets divided by the number of students from each community. That's a simple way of doing it, and most districts do it that way. So whatever that amount is over the minimum, then Anne Marie looks at the total students in your schools, at whatever that percentage is, and that's what percentage each town is required to pay in their assessment. Any questions about that?
Mac, that's the October 1 number, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Based on your October number from really the current year that you're working on the budget, but it's the year previous to when that's being assessed. Any other questions? Transportation is basically the same thing. You take the total cost.
Excuse me, Matt, Katrina has a question.
Sure.
So that's the October 1 enrolled students, so like homeschool kids and stuff, that number gets taken out, correct?
Yes, it's just in your case, it's just the kids who are actually in your schools.
All right, just with all the COVID stuff, that number's gonna be significantly different, I think.
Well,
interesting.
those kids would be counted that are staying home because of COVID, I believe.
Well, I think our numbers decreased significantly. A significant number of parents chose to actually remove them from the district and homeschool.
Right.
Well, then
So-
that's different.
So those kids are not counted in the number then? So like
Right.
theoretically that changes numbers, I guess.
If they're officially homeschooled and they have approval by the superintendent, they would not be counted here. But those kids who are just home because their parents want them home during the COVID, they would be counted.
What if there's students that were homeschooled and then came back once the schools opened up?
It's whatever happened on October 1st.
October 1, okay.
There's just as a quick, we just got a message today that they're going to look at March 1 numbers as well to see if that's going to make a change. But generally, it's if they come in after October, they don't, or leave. Either way, they don't count.
Christine Bennett has a
Christine.
question. Sorry, Tim, I asked you to unmute by accident.
I'm just curious for this percentage, so it would be a percentage between the towns, like it's not up or down based on the actual number of students, is it? So is it a similar ratio of Phillipston students that opted to homeschool to Templeton students? Like, would that remain our same ratio ideally?
It's whatever number of students were on your books on October 1st, or maybe on March 1st now, as Chris said.
Okay, I'm just reading that sentence where it says computing to the nearest percent of the ratio of the student enrollment. So if we lost 100 students, are we paying for 100 less students according to next year's budget? Or is it just going to be how you apportion the total between the two towns?
It's the latter,
Okay,
because you're correct to point out that it's a ratio. So the numbers are all going to change because of COVID perhaps, but it's the ratio that determines that's applied to the assessment. So in some cases, the ratio may change a little bit, but it's not a one-to-one relationship.
okay, so I don't know if central office could maybe get that number just to have a rough figure. Like my question was just, was it a similar percent of students in each town that opted out? Or, you know, was it, if it was vastly more in Templeton, then that would change the ratio. So I'm just curious.
I don't have the sheet in front of me, but I can tell you that the ratio or the percentage split was roughly the same. I would defer to Anne Marie, but I don't think it was off by a lot. Was it, Anne Marie? Than in normal years?
Anne Marie, you're muted.
You're muted, Emery.
I think it's still pretty close to the 85-15% split.
Okay. Susan, if we could scroll down, please. And also the assessment based on the capital debt, again, is based on, let's see. Again, it's based on student enrollment. Again, there are, at some risk of bringing up another issue, some regional agreements talk about foundation enrollment, which does, when they do this the ratio, that bases it on kids who are at charter school, choiced out, but most are doing it with the kids who are actually in your buildings. That's the ratio that people want to use. So that is what is here.
Linda Ellis has a question.
Yes.
All right, can we have documentation of what the actual split is the next time we meet of the homeschool kids as of October 1st and then also of March 1st? I did see that also, Chris, about them looking at the March 1st data. Thank you for bringing that up.
We can certainly provide the numbers that we had that were on that are on the sheets that are passed out to the town, which are the October one, but we can also look at the March one as well. We can get those.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. All right. And again, the assessment of capital and debt is again based on student enrollment, the same procedure. All right, you can scroll down, please. And number two, let's see, E2. Where is that? Yes, right there. This says that when you incur some debt, that the ratio changes of what percentage each town pays each year is based on the current or the previous year's October 1st numbers. So, for example, if you borrow $20 million to build a school or an addition, every year you'll look at the previous October 1st and see what the ratio is, and that's the ratio that will be used to assess each of the two communities. So again, that can change on a regular basis. So for each of those 20 years that you have debt on that $20 million or whatever it is.
I think Linda Ellis had a question.
Yes.
So you're talking about a variable rate?
No, the rate would be the same. The total that you owe on the bonds or the notes would be constant. It's just the rate that each town pays changes, is variable based on the student population.
Which is variable.
Yes, well, yeah, but the total isn't variable.
Right. How is it now? What is it now?
Anne Marie, I think that's what it is now, isn't it?
We don't have any debt at the moment.
That's good. But if we did,
It would be based on the October 1 split of residents.
Right, so, oh, wait, residents or students? Students, you mean?
Well, resident students, because school choice doesn't count.
Oh, okay, but we're talking about students, not residents of the town.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, so I think the answer is it's not a change from what you have been doing in the past.
Anne Marie, is it a change from what we've been doing in the past?
Nope. It's the same.
Do you have the old agreement to see the comparison?
That's how I've been calculating it for the last few years. But we haven't had any debt to calculate it on in 2 years.
That's good.
If you, let's see, if the old, everything that's in your old agreement is on this document. It just is crossed out. Let's see. So can you scroll down a little bit more, please, Susan? Right there.
If I may.
See, it says all capital costs in conjunction with any particular district school shall be apportioned among the member towns on the basis of each member town's pupil student enrollment. So that's what's in there right now. So it's not a change in what. So it's the same process. We're just trying to clean up the language a little bit. So again, everything that's in your current agreement is still in this document that we look at every time. It's just, we crossed out some of it and any new language is in red, but you can always find what's currently in your agreement by just looking at, if it's in black, nothing has changed. If it's in blue, it means we're suggesting deleting it to add other words.
Okay, so what was changed primarily taken from that last one? What was the big change and why did we need to change it then?
We probably didn't need to. It's just that I have this series of this language that's been approved by the state from another agreements. And we just thought that as long as it's not changing anything you're doing, we know that it's going to be acceptable to DESE. So if people want to go back to the old language in that specific instance, we certainly can do that.
Thank you for that nice explanation.
Okay. All right, and then so F, so you can see that the total assessment to each member town is a sum of their minimum local contribution and their share of the above minimum local contribution, plus their share of transportation and their share of any capital or debt. So at the end of even though those things are separated, Anne Marie is giving the town, you can only vote on one number. You can't vote on those three things separately, again, according to law. So Anne Marie calculates those things separately, puts it into one number, and that's the assessment that's given to the towns. Is that a fair statement, Anne Marie?
Yes, it's spelled out on their income sheet. They can see all three of those numbers, and then there's a total at the bottom.
Right. Okay. And let's go to section 6. So again, here's something that may fall into the same category as changing the budget after it's been approved. Your current agreement, as you can see, under A, says that the regional school district shall incur debt in accordance with and governed by general law, chapter 71, section 16, and any other applicable provisions of general law 71 and special laws relating thereto. Again, as we talked about before, we're spelling out what is in section 16 because the school committee has 2 ways to incur debt. And we want to make that transparent and clear to everybody in the communities. So there are two ways to do it. One is section D and one is section N. So first, if the school committee votes to incur debt, it's given to the towns, and the towns have 60 days in which to decide how to handle it. So any member town may hold a town meeting and for the purpose of expressing disapproval. So that's section D. So let's give an example. The school committee has approved a debt by 2/3 vote of $20 million to build an addition to one of your schools. And they say, we're going to follow the process in section 16D. You give it to the select board in each of the towns. The towns again have 60 days to decide what to do. If the 60 days go by and they do nothing, then it's assumed that that town has approved that debt. If they want to hold a town meeting to have the voters approve or disapprove it, they can do that within those 60 days. And that would go to each town. And if either town says no, then the school committee is not allowed to assume that debt. The second way this can happen is 16N. And that is that the school committee says, we want to have a election for both towns at the same time. It's not a town meeting, it's an election where people vote. And all the people in both of your towns go to the polls, they vote yay or nay on the to approve the debt. And whatever the majority of people in that at that election, that's what happens. So the 2 towns, the people are placed in under one tent, and that's what happens. So those are the 2 ways that the school committee can raise debt. And again, instead of just telling people they can go look in the laws, this is what the law says. Now, not too many times does a school committee, and my knowledge, go to 16N, but it's generally given to both towns and letting both towns vote on it separately. So is there any question about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any way around for the towns to get around the 16N? Or is that that once you go into 16N, is that final?
Well, the school committee does have the right to use that process. If they, 2/3 of them have to vote to do that. But I think there is not, you have to rely on your school committee members to do what they think is the right thing there.
Yeah, so if I can weigh in for a minute, Mac, at the beginning of the discussion about borrowing, the committee needs to have a conversation about which one of these options is best for the district. So it's not so much a question of getting around in, it's about which option is best for the district. And so you choose one or you choose the other.
So is this something that's going to be in our regional agreement, one or the other, which was chosen at this, during this juncture?
Well, that is the law. It's been available to your school committee in the past. It's just as it wasn't spelled out in your regional agreement.
The question, what I'm trying to get at is if you have this discussion now, are both options going to be in the regional agreement, or is just one option going to be in there?
As at this point, it would be, both of them would be in there. The thinking behind that is that you want to try to give, in regional agreements, you want to try to give the school committee as much discretion as you can about the best way to go about doing their business. So in this case, you're giving them a choice. They don't have to use it. They can choose one or the other. But the idea is to lay out both options and make both of them available.
And Gerhard, to follow up on your question, if we left out the 16N, it's still part of the law. The school committee could still use it, even if it were not in your regional agreement. So whether it's in there or not doesn't change whether the school committee can use either of those options.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, Susan, I think we're almost,
It looks like Christine Bennett has her hand up.
okay.
Thank you, Susan.
I had a question about the default approval in the, it seems like section B. So if the town doesn't respond, then whatever the school committee wanted was approved.
Yes.
Is there no problem with that? That just seems weird. And there's no dollar limit. I mean, it just seems strange to me how that could be the case. You should think it'd have to be approved by the selectmen or by the town vote, but not just approved by default to incur more debt that the towns are going to have to pay.
Well, I think it would be fair to say that it would be approved by the select board if they choose not to do anything. They would obviously take a vote that they don't think it's a problem, and they would vote to not call a town meeting. I don't think they would just ignore it for 60 days.
Does the board have to send a vote to the school committee saying that they approve the debt, but they're not going to have a meeting, you mean?
I don't think they're required to do that.
Just seems strange to me.
I think-
Go ahead, Mac, you still,
I was just gonna say, I think it was put in there so that a town couldn't just say, we're not gonna deal with it and therefore we'll kill it by not addressing it. And so there's a specific date in there by which they have to do something in order to say no.
May I
Linda
just-
Ellis has her hand up.
Sorry.
Yep. Go ahead, Linda.
Thanks. Could we put a little thing in there that says that it has to be a certified mail to the select board so that they will be informed? Because, you know, things happen and paperwork gets lost, and maybe not around here, but I know in other districts that it's possible that that happens, and just to be safe for both towns, could that be put in there?
I just think, look at the language here.
And that would establish a start date as well for the 60 days.
Sure, I guess we could add that. Look under B. Can you, so not later than 7 days after the date on which the committee authorizes the incurring of debt other than temporary debt in anticipation of revenue to be received from member towns, written notice of the date of said authorization, the sum authorized, and the general purpose or purposes for authorizing such debt shall be given to the Board of Selectmen in both member towns. So it is spelled out there.
Dr.
Okay, but
Cassidy
that-
has a question. I'm sorry.
I was just going to point out that section B spoke to that. And also I have been told that the previous section, the 60 days, if everyone was on board, it allows the borrowing to go through without forcing towns to have a town meeting. So, given the fact that if there was something, roof or whatever, everyone knew. So instead of forcing the issue, that that it allows that to happen. But that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah,
Linda, do you have another question?
Yes. Can you definitely put it in there though that, I know that maybe there was one paper that was supposed to go from Phillipston to Templeton and into the office and it never got addressed and it happened at town meeting. And we're still waiting for a response on that things do happen and wires get crossed and it's always good intent that, I know that people don't do things on purpose. So could you put it in there that it has to be done within the 7-day period by certified mail so that we can make sure that Templeton receives this documentation and Phillipston receives the documentation? That would be, and I know that that's the law, the 7 days is, I've read that before, but just to put it in there, so we're covered in
sure.
both. Towns.
We can, so it would read within the 7 days, and the third line down, from member towns, written notice by certified mail of the date of the said authorization. Is
That's perfect.
that okay? Is that okay
do you
with
think?
everybody else?
What do you think, Christine?
Sounds good. And then it would be in B as well, too, where it says written notice again.
Well, that's where I was talking about. Where else would you
Oh,
want it?
I thought it was something at the top. Yeah,
Right here.
the top of section 1, written notice of the amount of the debt shall be given to the Board of Selectmen.
Go ahead, Katrina.
I guess we're just limiting, if we say by certified mail, we're also limiting the options we have. What if they bring the written notice to the Board of Selectmen at their meeting? Then it's public record. They're bringing this notice. They've already asked to be on the agenda. The written notice is there. If we're saying by certified mail, we're actually, I think, limiting the options. Like, I don't, if something like this is happening, if we're incurring debt for some reason, as long as there's written notice, there's going to be some kind of documentation of it occurring. I don't think, like I said, what if they bring the written notice to the committee at their meeting? If we put in by certified mail, then that wouldn't be acceptable.
I think that's a good point, Katrina.
Well, then do both. In person or by certified mail. But in person in a public meeting.
Is the certified mail overkill? I think in person covers it.
I think it would depend on when a meeting is, Tim. So if it just so falls on on the wrong day that, we vote, I would, who would we give it to? I'm just saying it, for whatever reason.
Linda Ellis has her hand up.
Go ahead, Linda.
I like to be really cautious. And so I think that certified letter with somebody's signature on it shows that it was received. And I just want both towns to be protected. And this is serious, I mean, if we say, hey, yeah, you're going to build a brand new expansion for 5 million and everybody was supposed to have gotten it, but maybe they didn't, I just, and I'm not talking about right now, I'm talking about way down the future. Right?
I think Katrina's tried to speak, but you've been muted, Katrina.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, I mean, if we're building bridges or something, I see it more coming into play with something small for some reason. We need to incur this debt because the boiler broke and we need to get a new boiler and it needs to happen within the next couple of days. But to draw up a certified letter, send a certified letter in the mail, get it, I feel like we're making it harder for things that need to be accomplished to get accomplished. We're making people jump through hoops that, I mean, I think we should go on the assumption that the school committee and the towns are trying to act in the best interest. So I think adding something extra for them to have to do is more like putting up a roadblock from something occurring that needs to occur.
It'd be good to get a consensus here, how we deal with this.
I
Linda,
mean, should we
let's-
just do a vote
Thank you,
one way or the
Hardcore.
other?
I've seen paperwork lost, you guys, and I think this protects the district. I think it protects the towns. Certified mail is not that big a deal. All it is it shows that it was delivered and somebody's got a copy of it.
And I don't think anybody's saying it's a bigger deal, Linda. I think it's just more that it may actually muddy the waters and it may make the process more difficult and something may get lost is kind of what I'm hearing. Gerhard, go ahead if you have another question.
Yeah, we've been having troubles with our CAO and things have disappeared. So I think we should go with the certified mail and give the option that they can be delivered in person, but it needs to be done within that 7-day time frame. And the reason being is I use the CYA analogy is where there's so many things that go on and so many people involved that I think it would be better to have it in writing that yes, certified writing, or you can do it in person, but you need to get a signature if you do it in person, because things happen and we need something down the road other than just some minutes that say that, yes, it happened. So I would like to stick with the certified mail so that we have an absolute signature so that covers everyone.
Do we have any other discussion on this? I mean, do we want to take a vote on this or how do we want to proceed?
Probably is a good idea.
I think it would be a good idea just to take a vote on this. And it would be it's either going to be to for as written or to draft up some additional language as a certified vote to be delivered by certified letter, by certified mail, I guess it would be. Is that correct, Gerhard?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can I just interject for a second, Jeff?
You certainly can.
Maybe someone can make a motion to add
Yeah.
the language about the certified mail into what's previously written, and that way, if it's not voted, the language will stay as is. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Gerhard, I don't know if you want to make that motion, or Linda.
I'll let Linda do it. She's pretty vocal.
Okay.
I'm tired of talking. How about Christine?
No, all right, I'll make the motion. I'd like to move that we add the language to both of those sections, that the notice be sent by certified mail.
Or delivered in hand. Or delivered by hand with a signature, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we will do a roll call vote for this. And I believe I have everybody. If I missed somebody, let me know. Katrina?
No.
Tim? Tim Toth?
No.
Thank you, Tim. Amy? Am I missing Amy? Is she not there? Didn't I, wasn't she on here earlier today?
Yeah, she had to leave at
Okay.
6:20.
I believe at
Alright.
6:20, yeah.
Thank you, okay. Christine,
Yes,
Gerhard,
Yes,
Linda,
Yes,
Mr. Mark says no, and Mr. Mason?
Aye.
Okay. Actually, Chris, Sue, I didn't count it when I was.
I
going.
did, yeah. So we
Thank you.
have, for no's, we have 1, 2, 3 no's and 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and
Okay.
1 left. So she's not here. So the
Okay,
yeses have
thank
it.
you. So the yes, yep, the yeses has it. Thank you.
thanks, guys.
thank you.
So, Mac, will you and Jay be able to, put some language in there?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Take care of it for next time.
Okay.
So that is the end of basically of this section. That was difficult. You did a great job getting through all that. Jay has these 2 issues that have been, we've discussed. It's 25 past. Do you think we can at least take a look at those 2 issues and see if can come to a resolution? If we can't, we'll have to bump it to next time. Can we take a few extra minutes?
We have a meeting that's coming up, and if it's something that it's an issue, it's already sounding like extra time, that it would be nice to really digest it from the next time, maybe.
Okay. All right. Okay, Jay?
Yeah, maybe it would, I'm sorry for joining the meeting late. Maybe it would help just to take a moment, and I mean a moment, to highlight the 2 issues. Susan, can you go back to the beginning of the document? So I believe it's section,
4,
I think section 2. Yeah, going on here. So we're good here.
No, section 1B, 6. It's on the agenda, 1B6.
Yeah, so one of them is right here. It was about, we haven't resolved this business about whether a quorum requires the presence of representatives from both towns. So that's one thing. And then if you could scroll up to section 4, I want to make sure that, yeah, I think we've resolved this one. We can reappoint subcommittees. Yeah, okay. So it's section 6 that we should be ready to kind of move with next time. And then if you go to the next section, Susan.
Right there, yes.
Yep,
that's it, the quorum.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my screen tonight. Yeah, it's the quorum thing, but there was also.
It's Jay, the last sentence is a majority vote must include 1 vote from each member town.
Yes, so there is a document that I believe Susan has it in the Google Docs file that lays out some options for you that you asked for last time. So try to take a look at it. I mean, the options are not to include this. Another option would be to include it. And then a third option would be to look at the circumstances under which you would require it, but so normally you wouldn't, but then you'd identify some circumstances that would require it. Okay.
So basically the issue is a majority vote is all is necessary for most school committee issues, except for the budget, which requires a 2/3. So the question is, the list that Jay put together are there other issues that you would like to have more than a majority vote before something passes?
And we can explain that list next time.
We'll start with that next time.
Thank you for putting that together, guys.
Okay, Jeff, I think we're good for now.
Okay. And again, I appreciate you two putting that, those letters together for us to take a look at. And we'll review that before the next time, so we'll be prepared. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Was that a?
Someone needs to make the motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So
Thank
moved.
you.
Thank you.
And do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Okay, so, Katrina,
Yes.
Mr. Toth,
Yes.
Ms. Guthrie. Am I missing her again? No.
Yes,
All
she-
right.
He's not here.
Yep. Ms. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Fandriel,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis,
yes.
Mr. Marks says yes, and Mr. Mason.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks,
welcome.
Mel. Thanks, Jay.